Some champions are just unplayable against, and the items these broken champs build are a key factor in making them OP. What's up, GameLeaper? Oh, they're just back at it, and in today's video, we are going to reveal the 10 most broken champion and item combinations, and you would be very wise to abuse these in the current 11.16 patch. So let's get into it, and coming in at number 10 is one for all you AD carries out there, and it's simply the attack speed reliant marksman with Wit's End. So Ashe, Kog'Maw, Vayne, Wit's End is your first, second, or third item, is an unreal pickup because of the attack speed and magic resist, but also for the on-hit, which works so well with Kog'Maw in particular, and his bio-arcane barrage. Not only are you hitting more often and dying less often, you're also hitting harder. Now you could of course just rush into your Mythic and then a Runaan's Hurricane or Phantom Dancer, but it's worth sacrificing that damage output for a bit of survivability, and your damage output is still going to be nutty. No doubt in solo queue where your support doesn't peel you, this is going to be even more beneficial because of the tankiness it's giving you in those team fights, and most supports you play against in the bot lane are going to be AP based, so this nullifies their threat so you can scale for free. Now beating the Wit's End pairing with attack speed based AD carries, coming in at number 9 is the Divine Sunderer Bruisers, and Divine Sunderer, even though it got nerfed for ranged champions, is still the same for every melee champion in the game. So if you're playing Camille, Wukong, Nasus, any bruiser that can make use of Sheen, well, Divine Sunderer is still crazy good. The hybrid damage in particular works so well with Nasus, but for any of these Divine Sunderer abusers, because in the top lane you're going to be playing against champions who will build HP as part of their build, deliberately or not, the fact you're dealing more damage based on the target's HP, this has not changed one bit and it's still as powerful as ever. So Camille, Nasus, Wukong, all the Divine Sunderer bruisers coming in at number 9. Now beating these guys to number 8 on the countdown is the Anathema Chainers. So if we think of the new item Anathema Chains, which is great for champions who have CC, not knockups, but just general CC, so stuns and roots. So if you think of Tahm Kench, Leona, Sejuani, Skarner, these guys that have a lot of stuns in their kit and on repeat like low cooldown stuns, the new item Anathema Chains is a great pickup, particularly as a second item. But not only is it good in the CC department, if you select an enemy champion, maybe a hyper carry who's going to deal damage to your AD carry, this is a form of peel. So when you select that enemy champion, they're dealing less damage to you, which isn't that useful for your team, but at max stacks after you take a bit of damage, they have reduced tenacity. So your stuns are going to last longer and just be more impactful, and your peel is going to be off chop. So Anathema Chainers, Tahm Kench, Leona, any champion with a stun as a second item, this is really powerful at the moment. But what's even more powerful and honestly kind of interesting on this list, coming in at number 7, we have Lethality Katlyn, and yes, you heard me correctly. No more of this Gale Force nonsense with Stormrazor and then Infinity Edge. We're going all out lethality. So it starts with a Duskblade, and this is followed by the Collector. The damage you do with your Q, which you max first, your W, which you max second, and then your headshots and ultimate, it's all too much, but it's very important to understand that you're no longer really dealing damage based on your auto attacks. You're more of an ability Katlyn, so when you are on cooldown with your Q, W, and R, you have to play around those cooldowns because your DPS from your auto attacks is not going to be what it was, because you have no attack speed. But this build at the moment in high elo actually has a really good win rate for Katlyn, around 52%, so if you do want someone in the bot lane who's really fun to play and does a lot of damage, try out Lethality Katlyn in 11.16. Now beating her to the number 6 spot is another bit of a weird one here, but to be honest I think it makes sense because of the recent changes, and this is Bruiser Lillia coming in at number 6. So if you're playing Lillia in lane, mid, top lane, probably top lane, building a Rift Maker on her is the way to go. This makes your trading in the laning phase a heck of a lot better, and what's even more interesting, because you're probably going to be doing this in the top lane against AD champions, you can go Zhonya's or even Frozen Heart after this, and then follow this up with a Demonic Embrace. Demonic obviously is great if the enemy champions have HP, and no doubt they will in the top lane. And you can still build exactly the same items for mid Lillia, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on some of these wacky champion and item combinations, and if you've played them so far in 11.16, let me know how hard you entered in the comments. Now starting off the top 5, we have a very obvious pick here, and this is the Liandry's Anguish abusers. So we're talking Cassiopeia, we're talking Ziggs, a bit of Swain, a bit of Zyra, a bit of Brand, a bit of Malzahar, and Liandry's is not just great for the tick damage and damage overall, but also for the ability haze mythic passive. This means that when you're playing these spellcasting mages like Ziggs, Cassiopeia, your cooldowns are going down, so not only are you getting more Q, W, and E's off, but you're also getting more ultimates off. So if you think of Malzahar in the late game, for example, who likes a 50-second Never Grasp? Well, no one but Malzahar. Now it is true that mages this patch copped it a little bit because of the Dark Seal change, but Liandry's Anguish hasn't been changed for ages, and it's still keeping all of its power. So this comes in at number 5. But like the Lethality Katlyn build, we have Lethality Graves coming in at number 4. before, and this is really lane Greys, which has really taken off recently because it's a Grey counter to a lot of melee champions, in particular AD champions, because of your E and your grid giving you that armor. So if you're playing against an Aurelia, if you're playing against a Zed, a Talon, Greys in the mid lane with Eclipse is honestly one of the best, if not the best counter in the game. And that's right, it all starts with a serrated Dirk and building this into Eclipse. The shield you get, the lifesteal, the movement speed, it makes you very, very hard to 1v1, and because you are a lane bully against these melee champions, the fact you scale so well as well on top of that means you get your late game for free, and you can legit start one auto attacking people and killing them. I'm not joking. So Eclipse, Collector, you can build Serpent's Fang as well if the enemy team has a lot of shields, and you can follow this up with Saruta's Grudge, Lord Dominus Regards, even an Infinity Edge. It really just depends on the enemy team composition and what you need. But Lethality Greys comes in at number 4. Now starting off the top 3, the bronze medalists, and if you're enjoying this video, let us know by leaving a like down below, and if you want to see more patch videos like this, giving you the rundown on what is popular at the moment, let the Chiz and Co know in the comments. But starting off the top 3, we have the Nash's Toothbrushes. So we're talking Cat, we're talking Kale, a bit of Gwen, a bit of Teemo, and with Nash's Tooth, it's a bit like Wit's End, but it's giving you more offensive power. So if we think of Wit's End where it's giving you magic resist, Nash's Tooth is giving you 100 AP. This is a massive chunk, and for champions like Katarina and Kale, who aren't that great early on, this gives you a significant mid-game spike and the ability to wave hook, the ability to one-shot. But it's not only that, it's also the on-hit Nash's Tooth is giving you. So if you think of Katarina, where she's got on-hit pretty much everywhere now, and her passive and her Shumpo and her ultimate, this gets transferred into that. If you think of Kale as well with her E and her passive, this enhances that strength beyond belief, and it's kind of funny because that Nash's Tooth first item spike is actually a lot stronger than some mythic spikes in the game, so this has to come in at number 3. Now beating it to number 2, this is actually a very specific champion and item combination, then this is Hybrid Kane. Now what do I mean by this Hybrid Kane? Well, quite simply, you're going Shadow Assassin Kane, so the blue form, and then you're building Goredrink as your mythic item. Sounds pretty weird, right? Like, why would you want to build that? Well, because Prowler's Claw got nerfed, Duskblade isn't that great, it's still decent, but Goredrinker is just such a broken item at the moment, and it still gives you enough damage to one-shot people because you are Shadow Assassin Kane, but it also gives you a ridiculous amount of sustain in teamfights as well, which is what you really lack sometimes. You know, if you go in, if you misplay just a little bit, you're probably going to die, and all you do is just trade a 1-for-1. With Goredrinker, it gives you the sustain to sustain through those teamfights, funnily enough, and what Kane mains are doing are following Goredrinker with Serpent's Fang, because there's so many shields in the game, and then stacking their tier into Manamune. After that, it's really up to you, Saruta's Grudge, Guardian's Angel, Edge of Night, whatever you think you need to destroy the enemy team. But this is a super interesting build, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Hybrid Kane coming in at number 2. Now, the best champion and item combination, I don't think anyone can disagree here. This is the Goredrinker DPSs, and this is specific for the top lane. So if you think of Aatrox, if you think of Riven, if you think of Fiora, have any of you played against one of these champions when they've been ahead? Even if they're not ahead, they are impossible to kill. The mythic passive, which is giving them ability haste, means that Riven, in particular, you know, has a shield every 3 seconds, that's fun. Aatrox has a knock-up every second, Fiora has a Q every second, and there really is no stopping them, unless like all of your team has Morellos or Kempung Chainsword, some sort of Grievous wounds in there, they are going to wreak havoc. And with Conqueror as well, it just gives you way too much healing, it's insane. And even though Goredrinker has been nerfed, I mean, it did get buffed recently, but overall, since the start of the season, it has gone down, but it's still ridiculously strong. And these top laners are some of the strongest in the game, if not the strongest, just because of Goredrink and how well it synergizes with these bruisers. So those are the top 10 champion and item combinations, guys, for 11-16. If you enjoyed the video, again, let us know by leaving a like down below, and make sure you don't miss tomorrow's video or any of our future uploads by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell. Until tomorrow's upload, this has been the